Episode 80.
A dozen white beams of light suddenly erupted from the earth, shooting straight toward Han Li. Han Li, who had been motionless, snapped his eyes open, a cold light gleaming within them. His body suddenly shot into the air, then landed lightly on both feet in a clear patch of ground on the other side. The white streaks shot past him, embedding themselves in the dirt where Han Li had just been meditating. They revealed their true forms. Over a dozen razor-sharp ice spikes, half-buried and glinting with a cold, crystalline light. Seeing this, Han Li's expression darkened. He extended his right hand, fingers splayed. A small fireball appeared at the tip of each finger, each one half the size of a standard fireball technique projectile.
Try this 5-shot barrage.
Han Li fixed his gaze on the spot where the ice spikes had launched. He curled his fingers slightly, then snapped them forward. 5 fireballs shot out, flying in a perfect straight line. Just as the fireballs were about to strike the ground, a yellow figure suddenly materialized out of thin air. In a flash, it had already shifted elsewhere, narrowly evading the attack. The spot was instantly blasted into a large crater by Han Li's fireballs. The pit seethed with intense heat, the ground in places showing signs of melting from the extreme temperature. The man who had barely escaped broke out in a cold sweat. Han Li ignored the crater entirely, his gaze locked on the yellow-robed figure who had just leaped out. He was a wiry man in his 30s with a crafty look on his face.
Why did you ambush me?
You'll find out in your next life. Do it!
Han Li was startled and was about to move, when suddenly he heard 2 faint sounds of earth breaking beneath his feet. Then, a pair of large hands, shimmering with a yellow glow, shot out like lightning and clamped onto his ankles. They held him fast, as if bound by 2 unbreakable shackles, leaving him unable to move an inch.
You're dead, kid. With your feet stuck, let's see you dodge my ice spike spell.
The man in yellow raised his hands, aiming them directly at Han Li, and began to chant an incantation. An intense chill radiated from his outstretched hands. White crystals began to form, coalescing into sharp, jagged ice spikes.
Han Li's face changed drastically. His hand flew to his waist. With a flash of cold light, a gleaming longsword was in his hand.
Then, without a moment's hesitation, he brought the sword down.
But the blade struck as if against solid rock, sending sparks flying. The yellow giant hand remained completely unscathed. Han Li was both shocked and furious. Just as he was trying to think of another plan, the yellow-robed man's maniacal laughter rang out from across the way.
Kid, just die.
Han Li's heart sank. He looked up immediately and saw over 20 sharp ice spikes hurtling toward him.
Han Li's expression turned deathly serious. He took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and without moving his feet, his body suddenly twisted in a left-right motion. Most of the ice spikes were dodged by that serpentine motion. Only his right shoulder and left leg couldn't evade, each pierced clean through by a single spike. Blood instantly began to flow from the wounds, soaking through Han Li's clothes. Han Li tossed his sword aside, his fingers dancing as he swiftly sealed the blood vessels around the wound. The yellow-robed man, who had been so smug just moments before, could only stare wide-eyed at what had just transpired.
Han Li's expression turned sinister. With a sharp exertion of his calves, they twisted bonelessly. A series of sharp, crackling pops echoed from his feet as they suddenly shrank by a full circle. Then, with a violent upward lunge, his soles slipped free like slick fish. He wrenched his feet free from the massive hands with a brutal twist, then shot backward through the air, coming to a halt a full 10 zhang away, his gaze fixed on the giant hands.
Impossible! How could he pull his foot free while under the effect of giant strength?
Then, the 2 giant hands wrenched apart, and a hulking figure wreathed in yellow light forced its way up from the earth. The burly man who had just emerged from the earth and the yellow-robed man from earlier were the duo who had been chasing Han Li all along. Han Li felt a searing, fiery pain in his wounded thigh. The frantic movement had clearly aggravated the injury.
But there was no time to think about that now, because the burly man who had just been in the earth pulled a longsword wreathed in black vapor from his back and charged at Han Li with murderous intent.
He's fast, but his movements are stiff. He's just relying on a spell to boost him. But when it comes to agility and ghost-like movement, I'm confident he can't even come close to matching me.
With that thought, Han Li ignored the imposing man before him and focused on the man in yellow. The man had produced a dark green gourd and was pointing its opening directly at him, clearly preparing to cast another spell.
Where are you looking? Die!
The burly man had already closed in on Han Li. With a brilliant flash of yellow light erupting from his body, he raised his long saber and brought it down in a vicious slash.
Han Li's body swayed, and he slipped right out of the blade's path.
You fell for it, kid.
The long blade flashed with black light, transforming into a lengthy black cord that snaked after Han Li's figure, coiling around him like a constrictor. Han Li was startled. His figure immediately blurred, becoming bizarre and elusive. He darted left, then right, forward, then back, as if several Han Lis were simultaneously circling the big man.
The big man was startled at first, but relying on his full-body earth armor spell for protection, he ignored it and continued to drive his flexible black lasso, desperately chasing Han Li's true form.
Han Li shot past the big man, but in that instant he unleashed a rapid-fire barrage of fireballs from his hands, striking the man's body. The yellow light of his protective spell wavered violently, but it quickly stabilized again.
You think a few measly fireballs can break through my protective shield?
The big man wore a look of utter arrogance, yet his hand seals flew even faster, and his control over the black chain never wavered.
That black rope of his is a bit slower than I am, so it can't catch me. But I can't afford to slacken my pace for a second, or I'll be snared for sure. What kind of magic tool is this black rope?
Why is it so damn persistent?
In the midst of the chaos, Han Li stole a glance at the man in yellow. The man's expression was grave, and the green light being drawn from the spout of his gourd magic tool hinted at something formidable about to emerge.
No, if this keeps up, I'm a dead man. Looks like I have no choice but to take the risk.
Han Li, still flying at high speed, pulled out the Vajra talisman he'd obtained from the Golden Light Master. Han Li muttered a few incantations under his breath, the words slurred by the violent motion. Yet, the 7 golden characters on the talisman began to glow. As the 7 golden characters blazed to life, Han Li slapped the talisman hard against his body. Instantly, a brilliant golden light erupted from him, a golden shield abruptly materializing, and his movements suddenly slowed to a crawl. The black rope caught up and ensnared him. Seeing the black ropes coiled around him but completely blocked by the golden light, Han Li felt a surge of relief. He knew his gamble had paid off. The golden barrier could indeed defend against the opponent's magic tool.
Seeing this, the burly man let out a low roar. He took great strides forward, fists clenched tight, and charged once more.
The yellow light on his hands was blindingly intense, clearly enhanced by some new technique. Having learned his lesson from last time, Han Li wasn't about to let the big man get close again. He suddenly crouched down, pressed his hands to the ground, and began chanting a low incantation. A faint yellow glow emanated from his palms.
The big man was slightly startled by this. He wanted to stop in his tracks at once, but it was already too late.
The ground beneath his feet turned to soft, shifting quicksand. His legs sank deep, buried up to the thighs, and he couldn't help but panic. Just then, a sharp, scolding voice suddenly pierced Han Li's ears. His heart sank, and he looked toward the man in yellow.
From the dark green gourd's mouth, 7 or 8 pitch-black spheres shot out in rapid succession, flying straight toward Han Li. Han Li's face darkened. He let the yellow light around his hands dissipate, then frantically rummaged inside his robes and pulled out a wooden box.
The spheres slammed into Han Li's golden shield, distorting it violently. It rippled and buckled, on the verge of shattering.
Han Li ignored it all. He sat down cross-legged, placed the wooden box across his knees, and began to form the hand seals for the incantation.
The onslaught of those spheres grew even more ferocious, never letting up for a single moment.
The golden light around Han Li's body gradually dimmed, as if the protective barrier was on the verge of shattering at any moment.
Rise!
With Han Li's furious roar, a beam of gray light over 10 feet long shot out from the wooden box. Like a dragon leaping from the water, it circled once around him. Those orbs met their natural nemesis, each one cleaved in two and plummeted to the ground.
A talisman treasure.
Han Li's mind stirred, but he had no time to dwell on it. The burly man closer to him had already broken free.
But the moment he saw Han Li's murky gray sword light, his face instantly turned deathly pale.
Instead of charging toward Han Li, he turned and sprinted in the opposite direction.
But Han Li, his bloodlust now fully roused, had no intention of letting him escape. He pointed a finger at the burly man, and the sword light shot after him like a vengeful comet, closing the distance in the blink of an eye.
The sword light circled the big man's neck once, and his head immediately tumbled to the ground. The protective yellow light around his body might as well not have been there at all, offering no defense whatsoever.
Seeing this, the man in yellow didn't dare to linger for another second.
He immediately produced a talisman, slapped it onto his body, and instantly sprouted a pair of massive yellow wings. With a single light flap, he soared into the air and flew off into the distance. Han Li directed his sword light in pursuit, sticking close behind the yellow-robed man's heels. The man in yellow flew faster and faster, and for a moment, the gray light couldn't catch up to him.